Hello and welcome to another edition of Eagle News Forum. My name is Dr. Malcolm Beach, and I'm the host for the show, and my co-host is Malcolm Muhammad. And we're happy to bring you another edition. Today we're going to be talking about doing business in Africa, and also we're going to be talking about tourism and food. So it should be an interesting show. So, Malcolm, do you have any comments you want to make?
Thank you, Dr. Beach. As always, I'm happy to be here. Great to have another opportunity to discuss the African diaspora and its desire to reconnect with the African continent on the Eagle News Forum.
Okay. Start us off, Malcolm, with some questions.
Well, I think today's part of what we're doing today is discussing how to do business in Africa and then how to enjoy Africa after the business is done. Enjoy in terms of the nightlife, the food, maybe go on some travel excursions, take some pictures, document your trip, those type of things. But yeah, let's start off with discussing doing business in Africa. Many of us in the diaspora are very curious. We're aspirational. We want to do business in Africa. And maybe would you share some of your experiences? You have done business in Africa, Nairobi, Kenya. Can you talk a little bit about what it takes to get a license to do business in Kenya? What it takes to register a business, tax ID certificate?
Okay, let me start off by saying we registered our company in Nairobi, Kenya through a lawyer, okay? Because that's usually the best place to start, is because the lawyer knows all of the laws associated with the country and all the kinds of business licenses that you may need. And that's a good reference point to start off with your lawyer. Basically, you get incorporated or registered with the government, and there's some things that the government wants to see: your articles of incorporation, your bylaws, the minutes from your organizing meeting to just see who is involved on the board of directors. So they want a list of all of that to start with, and then the lawyer would submit the application to the government, and after they approve it, which could take anywhere from 1 month to 6 months, depending on what country you're in, and sometimes it may take even longer than 6 months. But after that, the next most important step is that you have to get a tax number. In other words, the Kenya Revenue Authority in Kenya will give you a PIN number identifying your tax status, and so when you file your annual tax reports, you will have that number, and they can track what you're paying with what you're filing. Likewise, the PIN number becomes very important when you want to open a bank account, because in order to open up a bank account, the bank officer has to see all this documentation that you truly exist. Is who's on your board of directors, and do you have a tax ID number? Are you properly registered with the government before they even open up an account for you? So having that registration and open up their bank account allows you to begin to get set up to do business on the ground in Kenya. Once you do that, then the next step is going to be to decide what kind of public facility are you going to need for an office. Basically, there's at least two different kinds of simple thoughts about setting up an office. One is the kind of office that you can just rent the name of the office and they answer a telephone for you. And if you need a physical office or a conference room, you can rent that by the hour. So to give you the example, one of the companies that does that is called Regus, Regus, and their fees run anywhere from $175 up to $500 a month, depending on what kind of services that you want. But it's always good to have a address and a telephone number when you're doing business. At the Regus facility, they will answer the phone for you and then send you an email message so that you can get back in touch with whoever it was that inquired about your business. So if you go to say you want to get your own office building to be a tenant in an office where you could have the office 24 hours a day or 7 days a week, then you would have to sign a lease with a landlord for one of the commercial spaces that he may have available. And usually the deposit is anywhere from 2 to 3 months rent, because they want to be real clear that you're serious about moving into that facility. So they want you to make a financial commitment that you're going to be there for a while. And the lease could be anywhere from 1 year to 5 years or more, depending on how much you're willing to commit. But those are the simple kinds of things that could be done if you're trying to set up an office in Kenya. And in most other African countries, it's very similar in terms of what you have to do. I've heard that the fastest place to set up your business is in Rwanda. Supposedly they can get all the paperwork done in a week, which is fantastic for African time. In Kenya, it took us a couple months to actually get everything set up. So, like I said, it depends on the country and their rules and their regulations about having people register their company.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay.
Excellent advice. Register your business in Africa. Well, the next thing, once you're set up, you have your office, you're registered to do business, you have your tax ID. How do you penetrate the marketplace?
Well, that's a good question. You have to do some research. You think about it, any kind of product or service that you may have to offer in your business, you're coming into a country and nobody knows you. You're just showing up one day and want to sell something, want to ask them for some money. Well, there's a little more to it than that, all right? What we would suggest is that you take a little time and find out something about the country. Find out which are the largest cities. Look for the population of some of the larger cities. Travel around to the cities so you can physically see what they look like, and what they're famous for. Do they have a lot of manufacturing companies already there, or are they located near the beach? Of course, that's what some folks do. They want to find out in Kenya, where is the beach? And that's a place called Mombasa. So Mombasa is very different from Nairobi. So the location of your business initially becomes very, very important. But what I'm saying is that find out the population, of the particular city and the country. Visit the city and the country so you can look at the neighborhoods yourself. All of these countries, most of them at least, have television and they have radio. So there's a way to communicate to the population, whether you're buying ads or trying to solicit an interview with a radio show or a television show. So you can tell people that you're new to the marketplace and tell them about the goods and services that you are going to provide. Another thing you can do, of course, there are many expositions and trade shows going on all the time in various countries, which means that you get registered as an exhibitor or vendor, and you set up your table all day at the particular event, and you hand out brochures and you talk to people that may come by your table and tell them what it is that you're selling, so you would get a better feel for the market. And then you can do your own special event once you get a better feel, where you advertise yourself as inviting people to come to a particular location to hear something. They could be coming to hear a speaker, they could come to hear a singer, but it could be sponsored by you, and you'll be able to tell them about your product and maybe even give out some free samples. These are some different things that I've learned over the years that you have to do if you're new to the market and you're going to penetrate the market. You have to make contacts with the people in the market. And like I said, do as much research in advance as you can, so you can learn a little bit about who these people are, what's their culture, what's important to them, what are their hopes and aspirations. Because normally when you're selling a product or a service, you got to tune into the hopes and aspirations of your customer. You know, why would somebody want to buy from you unless you're helping them achieve their particular goals? So it becomes real important that you get to know who your customer is before you start to spend a lot of time trying to sell them something. You know, find out who you're dealing with. And the idea is that you want to help them achieve their goals, and they will buy from you, you know, if you're able to do that, because then you become a part of their success, you know, and that's what people want.
So it sounds like you believe that identifying your customer is very important to doing business.
Absolutely. I mean, that is what business is. You know, it's a seller and a buyer. And the buyer is the customer. And you have to do everything in your power to do what they call get a good customer. And the thing about the customers is, in a business, when you're talking about running a business, it's not a one-time event. You don't really make money just on that first sale. You know, you make money on repeat business. When people come back to you the second and third time and they refer you to their friends, that's how a business grows, is through repeat customers. And so that's why you ought to make sure that you're taking care of your customer needs. You know, a lot of, I'm talking about major corporations now. You know, we did some studies in mergers and acquisitions, and it turns out that the biggest consideration in the mergers and acquisitions is that if you're going to buy another company, is the customer base, because that's really what you're buying. So customer service becomes a key element of any business operation. And like I said, the repeat customers, if you're noticing now, we get more surveys than ever. Whenever you contact a customer, after the contact, they want to know, how was it? Did they satisfy the issue? You know, would you recommend them to someone else? Well, this is a new level of activity for most corporations, but they understand very clearly that the customer is the king. And without a customer, you have nothing. So yes.
So it sounds okay. So in addition to knowing the marketplace, identifying your customer, you also believe that it's very important to network and develop relationship with industry leaders and organizations, trade associations.
Yes, anytime you go into a market, it's like a new territory. You know, you got to figure out what are the boundaries. You got to figure out who's who. And, you know, you're never going to be the first person in the marketplace selling whatever it is you're selling, products and services. It's always going to be someone else there ahead of you, because if there's a true market need, believe me, someone else has already discovered the same thing. So what you do is you go to business associations. This is where business people congregate and they meet and they do networking. And you listen to the business leaders talk about trends in the business community, just what is going on, what's going up, what's going down, you know. So you give yourself a better education and understanding as to just how your product or service will fit into the business of that community. And generally, trade associations, you'll meet other people doing something similar to what you're doing. and they'll most times they will have a general conversation with you about the market and tell you some of the do's and don'ts and the ups and downs, share some of their experiences, and all of that would be very helpful to you. So yes, I would encourage everyone to join a local chamber of commerce, so you get to know the other business people and other leaders in the area where you're going.
Sounds exciting. I think you go in and you set up your business, and you're meeting with your peers or competitors in the marketplace. You get to know your customers. Now, what happens when you, after all this is done, and you just want to go out and enjoy yourself for the evening? All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Right?
Oh yeah, well, absolutely, and that's one of the things that you always have to keep in mind. A lot of business relationships they're social relationships. You know, people will share more information with people they like, and a lot of times it's a lot easier to develop that relationship over a couple drinks or over dinner or some other social activity. So finding a good restaurant is going to be key to your successful business ventures. A lot of times the restaurants do advertise in different travel magazines and other publications. But once again, your travel agent could be important to you because they already know the lay of the land. They know where the good restaurants are, and they can give you some advice on where to go and what to look for when you go there. Likewise, your hotel concierge. Every hotel has a concierge desk that will help you learn more about the particular city or area that you're in, and they can give you some advice on where to go for lunch or dinner. There's a place in Nairobi called the Carnivore restaurant, and I tell you, it's just like the name sounds. They got every kind of wild meat that you can think of. I'm talking about they got snakes and alligators and deer. They even got elephant, and gorilla, meat in that particular place. So I mean, there's all kinds of specialty restaurants, and generally each country that you go to, they have their own specialty foods. I mean, the foods are generally delicious, and it's fascinating. Most of them are vegetarian based, more plant life than the other one I just talked about. The carnivore is primarily meat, but you can get some of these restaurant menus, and you just be fascinated by what they can do with vegetables, and it's very, very tasty. A lot of food in different restaurants is really the spices, and how it's cooked. If you got a good chef, that chef can really make it delicious, whatever your plate is. I mean, you can take potatoes and greens and really make them fantastic with the spices that they use. So it's really good to get great recommendations on good places to eat, because when you go to another country, you may be accustomed to, in America, we got hamburgers and pizza. That's all we know. But you go to another country, you get a chance to get your palate, a different experience. And I'll tell you, you'd never be the same after that. You'll be more discerning and more selective about what you put into your mouth and in your stomach after you visit some of these fantastic restaurants in Africa and these cities.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to tell us, you mentioned hotel guests. What are your thoughts about using a travel agent to?
Yeah, I think the travel agents are a very important part of what I call trip planning and pre-planning. Usually when you go on a vacation or a business trip, you only have a few days. A lot of times business trips are 3 to 4 days. And most of the time, vacation trips are 7 to 10 days. So that's not really a lot for you to investigate and search out, all the hot places. There's just not enough time. So it would be better for you to consider talking with a travel agent that could give you their suggestions about some of the top places to go, depending on what your preferences are. If you like a particular kind of food, they can recommend restaurants that specialize in that. If you like a particular kind of music or nightclub, they could tell you where the jazz place is, or where the cultural drummers, line up, and the dancers, So, there'll be different types of entertainment venues available to you that it would be better to go with a travel agent to find out where they are, as opposed to you just knocking on every door down the street trying to figure out, well, which entertainment facility to go to. So yes, I'd recommend a travel agent to help you move around, and definitely they can help you see the actual city better than anybody else, because they have tour buses that take you around the city so you can see a lot of different things, and then you may decide to come back later for a longer trip, a longer stay in that particular location because you saw something that you really enjoyed. But yeah, I think it's always good to try to have a guide, a professional guide to help you, especially because you're on limited time.
So, you mentioned these.
You mentioned these tours. Have you had a chance to go on some of these tours, see some monuments, other great views?
Oh yeah, once again in Nairobi, they've got a giraffe zoo. You know what I mean? And it's the funniest thing. You see giraffes all the time in the pictures, and you may even see them at a distance. But sometimes they go to the giraffe zoo and actually put your hand on the giraffe, or have the giraffe eat some food out of your hand. It's a different experience, and that's what I'm saying. When you go on these trips, especially the vacation trips, you want to have experiences, and that is something that it makes it just more fun. You want to have fun. You're not going out on a university study trip to study everything. You're going out there to experience everything. You want to have fun with the animals and everything else. In Nairobi, they have a park, a national park inside the city limits. So you can go on a safari inside the city limits. In other words, you may go out there for 4 to 6 hours on a safari and see all the animals that you have heard about, the elephants, the lions, the tigers, the rhinos, a lot of those things you can see right in the city of Nairobi. If you are a lot more adventurous, of course, you can go outside and stay 3 or 4 days on a safari trip. One of the most fascinating safari trips in Africa is a place in Kenya they call the Masai Mara, and it's about an hour or two away from flying time, away from Nairobi, and you see what they call the Great Migration. A lot of the animals migrate from one part of Africa to another depending on the season. And to see thousands of these animals moving around is just a great sight. And you spend the night in an outdoor hotel, I should call it. It's not a tent, but it may have some canvas parts to it, but it gives you a great feel of being outdoors, camping overnight. And it's just a fantastic experience to have, so you can have these experience outside of the city as well. And like I say, your travel agent is the one that can hook everything up for you.
Thousands of animals. That's got to be a very enriching experience.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is. You can hear about it, maybe see pictures about it, but to actually be there watching it is just fantastic. You appreciate nature so much more when you're closer to it.
Fantastic. So who would you contact to see maybe some of the cultural performances, music, concerts, dancing?
Yeah, once again.
Every hotel has a desk, a concierge desk is what they call it. And that person is very familiar with all the available activities in the city. and they can tell you where the shows are and make suggestions about good clubs and restaurants to attend. And you tell them, like I said, what you want. You want to hear the drummers, or you want to see some dancers, or you want to go listen to the jazz band. You know, they can differentiate what you said and line it up, make reservations for you to go to any of those places. Like I say, you're on a short time string, so it would be better to plan your trip with some help from some people that know where the good places are to go.
Very well. What about restaurants? Who's your go-to person for finding out some great places to dine while you're visiting a city?
Yeah. You're like I said. Once again, you're in a hotel. The hotel generally has some nice restaurants, but you may want to decide to get out of the hotel, you know, for a moment. And again, you go back to the concierge and ask them what are some of the top-rated hotels or some of the travel guides that might be available, where there's some advertisement in it about some of the top-rated hotels, depending on the cuisine. You know, what kind of food do you have a feel for that you want to enjoy, that you want to taste? You got a taste for. People have a taste for different things, you know, at different times, and you know, a lot of times, you know, there's restaurants doing everything, all kinds of different foods. You just got to know which ones they are, which ones to go to. Which ones don't have any problems? You know, there's always issues about, you know, sanitation and the quality of the food and all that kind of. So you want to go to the restaurants that have the best reputation. A lot of them are associated with hotels, but some of them are not. You know, they're independent, standalone.
Fantastic. Like we've given a great overview of setting up a business in Africa, registering the business, getting the license, penetrating the marketplace, getting to know your customers, developing relationships with trade associations and industry leaders. And of course, you've rewarded us with a great perspective of how to enjoy Africa. Whether it's great restaurants, cultural performances, music concerts, dancing, seeing some iconic monuments, as you mentioned, the Mansa Mara experience. So I think we've given our audience some great information, a great perspective on the diaspora going home to Africa.
Okay. Well, I thank you very much, Malcolm, for those very interesting, probing questions, you know. But that's what the show is all about. Eagle News Forum. We're talking about the diaspora and how the diaspora can come home to Africa and really get a lot out of it. Some of our future shows will talk a little bit more. We always sort of talk about investment, coming home, retirement. Some people, you know, they've had enough of the United States or the Western world, and they want to come back home. And there's some good retirement opportunities in Africa that we're going to explore in some future shows. But thank you all for joining us today, and you have a great day, and check with us next time. Eagle News Forum. Our website is eaglenews.com. Please check that out when you get a chance.
Thank you.
Good day.